Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon.
So my name is Nane Roxanne, and I'm going to be your moderator for this afternoon on this webinar topic, which is very interesting, and I'm also looking forward to learn a lot. It's differentiated learning program, impacting learning outcome. But before we get to the nitty-gritty of it, and I invite the resource person, let's just go through briefly how the day is going to be like. So I'm going to start with introducing who we are at IEPA for the benefit of those of us who might not know a lot about that. My name once again is Nani Farokta. I'm the head of communications and public relations at IEPA. So after the brief introduction of who we are at IEPA, then we will observe some rules and announcements. Then I'll introduce the speakers by reading their profiles. Then I'll hand over the platform for them to start their presentation. After their presentations, we're going to open the floor for question and answers, comments and contributions, and we'll have final remarks, and we will end approximately by 30 minutes past. Thank you. So, so who we are at IEPA? The Institute for Educational Planning and Administration. Sorry, before I go on, Dennis, you were drawing on the slide, so kindly be mindful of your mouse. Thank you. So who we are at IEPA? The Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, IEPA for short, was established in August 1975 based on a joint agreement between the government of Ghana and UNESCO UNDP to build and strengthen capacity in educational planning and administration of experts and non-experts, and to inform education now policy formulation and implementation through research. And this has been the core of the Institute for the past 45 years and counting. In November 2020, IEPA officially became a UNESCO Category 2 Center for Excellence for West Africa, and this was launched by the Honorable Minister for Education in June 2021. As a UNESCO Category 2 Center, IEPA is to, among other things, build capacity of the workforce in the education sector in the West African sub-region, in the areas of educational planning, leadership, administration, as well as mobilize international and regional experts, provide technical assistance and policy advice to support sector-wide planning and policy development. So this webinar series is one of such events that we use to build capacity geared towards SDG 4. I entreat all of us to visit our website, www.IEPA.ucc.edu.gh, to learn more about our services and programs. Thank you. Now, over the years, we've gotten requests on certificates for our webinar series so that participants can use this for their EPD. So you can actually get a certificate at the end of this webinar if you're interested. And a certificate costs 100 Ghana cedis, and we will send you an electronic version of it. If you want a certificate, you can send us the money on Vodafone Cash, 050 522 1029. The till number is 374145, and the name on the account is IEPA-UCC. I believe each one of us who registered for this webinar received a confirmation email, and it was sent by the Office of Communication and Public Relations. So after the webinar, if you want a certificate, you can send us an email to that same email address, and we'll work on it for you. We'll ask you a few details and we'll get that for you. And let me just say that it's only an electronic version certificate that will be sent to you, and you're free to post it. If, however, you want us to give you a hard copy, then you have to pay for the postage and delivery of the certificate. Thank you. So that's brief information for us. During the presentation, if you have any comments or questions, you can use the chat box and it will be addressed appropriately, or at the right time, that question or comments will be read as we go along. So who are resource persons for today? We have two astute professionals in education who are going to take us through the topic, differentiated learning program, impacting learning outcomes. And the first resource person is in the person of Ms. Kanan Dubal, the Senior Programs Manager at Innovation for Poverty Action Ghana. So Ms. Kanan works as a Senior Programs Manager at Innovation for Poverty Action, IPA Ghana. In this role, she leads IPA Ghana's work on differentiated learning. She started her career as a corporate lawyer in India before pivoting to a career in policy consulting, where she worked with governments providing technical assistance in India, Mexico, and Ghana across different sectors. Before joining IPA, Kanan worked at the Ministry of Education, Ghana, as an embedded technical advisor to senior management, providing support on formulation, implementation, and coordination of policy, program, and legislative work. Ms. Kanan holds a master's in education policy and analysis from Harvard University and a bachelor's in law from the Government Law College, Mumbai, India. Our second resource person is Mr. Henry Atimone. He's a senior research associate at Innovation for Poverty Action, Ghana. Henry has worked extensively in the impact evaluation field and is currently focused on assisting the scale-up of differentiated learning on the Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes project, that is developed for short. He has supported several projects across the course of his time at IPA Ghana, including the strengthening teachers' accountability to reach all students, that's the STARS project, quality preschool for Ghana, QPAC, and fast track transformational teacher training, FTTT. Before joining IPA, Henry worked with the Ghana Statistical Service. He holds a bachelor's degree in zoology from the University of Ghana and a certificate in professional project management from the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Admin. Distinguished participants, your resource persons for today, Ms. Kanan Dubal and Mr. Henry Atimone, are ready to join us. And since we're doing this on screen, at least you can have a glimpse of how beautiful and handsome they are by their pictures. And Ms. Kanan and Henry, we are ready for your presentation. Thank you. So you can unmute yourself. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we have the opportunity to share yours and start with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nana, for this introduction, and very pleased to be here and see everyone taking time out of their schedule to be here. I will now share the screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Sorry, yeah. Okay, so we'd start off. We are presenting on differentiated learning program, which is also known as targeted instruction. This is the presentation outline. I will take a moment to talk about IPA and then delve right into the core presentations to cover the topics about what is DL, the STARS program, which is strengthening teachers' accountability to reach all students, the project evaluation findings, etc., and wrapping up with what's next for DL. For the benefit of those who do not know what IPA is, IPA is Innovations for Poverty Action, is a non-profit research organization dedicated to creating, evaluating, and replicating innovative solutions to poverty and policy problems worldwide. Our vision is a world with more evidence and less poverty. And for that, we design and evaluate potential solutions and create them with government to ensure sustainability towards better programs and policies. IPA also specializes in using randomized control trial, often known as RCT, methodology to evaluate the impact of development programs. We also support strengthening, monitoring, and evaluation systems to generate quality data to improve government programs. Okay, so we go to what is differentiated learning. To clarify from the start of the presentation, differentiated learning uses targeted instruction pedagogy along with universal for design learning framework. So during the course of the presentation, you may hear us using TI or targeted instruction and DL or differentiated learning interchangeably. But please note that what is currently being scaled up in Ghana is DL, and hence the presentation is titled as differentiated learning. However, the focus of the presentation, which is STARS, was using the targeted instruction pedagogy. So the DL is a pedagogical approach that tailors instruction to the level of the student's current knowledge instead of the grade level of the official curriculum, which means teaching students at their level of knowledge and not their grade level. And this is teacher-led. Previous research in Kenya and India has demonstrated that targeted instruction is an effective and cost-effective strategy to increase learning, increase student learning. So we go a little bit into how DL is carried out in the Ghanaian context. Targeted instruction divides primary sections into lower primary, consisting of P2 and P3 learners, and upper primary consisting of P4 and P6 learners. And the groupings happen in these sections. At the beginning of the school term, all the learners will be tested in maths and English using a basic ACER type tool and grouped in levels based on their assessment scores. Our theory of change is that grouping students according to their level of learning reduces within class heterogeneity and allows teachers to effectively teach the relevant materials. Based on these test scores, learners are then grouped into 3 learning ability, lowest being those yet to develop foundational or basic math and English reading and math skills, and the highest being those performing at the grade level. The students are then taught in their learning levels and not at the grade level. During the DL hours, students who are behind receive instruction at their level and not at their grade level. This helps in remedying basic skills and allowing the catch up to the grade level work. So now we'll come to the main study that this webinar is focusing on, which is STARS, Strengthening Teachers' Accountability to Reach All Students, where the implemented pedagogy was targeted instruction. So let's get into why the need was felt to explore targeted instruction pedagogy in India. UNICEF Global Initiative on Out-of-School Study conducted in 2012 indicated that 89% of the Ghanaian children were enrolled in primary, but only 8% met the basic academic standards for their grade. This means students were in school, but not learning. The other data point was that the 2016 National Education Assessment found that fewer than 25% of the pupils in P4 were considered proficient in English, 19% were proficient in maths, and at P6 level, only 25% were proficient in English and 22% were proficient in maths. With these gaps in learning outcomes among primary students, it highlighted the heterogeneity in the primary school classrooms. Strict adherence to the official level of curriculum causes some students to fall further behind, with learning gaps growing each year. One promising way to enhance teaching quality and learning outcome in developing countries is targeted instruction, teaching at the knowledge level of the student instead of the grade level. And this was done through a study in Ghana called Teacher Community Assistant Initiative, or TCI, which was piloted in 2010. So TCI was like a predecessor to STARS. TCI study revealed that targeted instruction was successfully improved learning outcomes, although only a fraction of teachers implemented the program. These results then suggested that with weak accountability monitoring and supervisory support for teacher-led programs, it will be challenging for the government to achieve the same results as they move from pilot to scale. In efforts to understand low compliance by teacher in TCI, implementation revealed that the lack of teacher motivation and absenteeism were contributing factors. This called for establishment of strong accountability, monitoring, and supervisory support to enhance the broad take-up of the targeted instruction program. So with this knowledge of targeted instruction pedagogy working, but to understand more about why compliance was low, focus group discussions were conducted following the TCI study. The focus group discussions with teachers, head teachers, and circuit supervisors identified that weak management policies were the contributing factors to the low take-up of targeted instruction. Therefore, STARS was developed to replicate and improve upon the success of TCI by including a management arm. The researchers partnered with IPA, UNICEF, GES, NTC, NACA, and NIB to conduct a randomized evaluation test to test whether the stronger management support could increase the compliance to the teacher-led targeted instruction. This project took place within 20 UNICEF-supported districts in Ghana for one academic year in 2018 to 2019. The project seeks to explore A, how teachers can be motivated and empowered to implement new approaches that have the potential to improve learning outcomes. B, how supervision can be strengthened to provide coaching and mentoring support for teachers to implement new pedagogical approaches. Targeted instructions under STARS was focused on equipping classroom teachers from P4 to P6 to teach at the knowledge level of the child. It would be very important for us at this point to speak about the partnership. None of this would have been possible without the strong partnership of those that were involved in the STARS project with the government institutions. The STARS project is a partnership among many institutions, Ministry of Education and its agencies, which are NACA, NACIA, NTC, Ghana Education Service, UNICEF, and IPA. The program was co-created and the government was the key implementer with the technical support from UNICEF and IPA. Under this partnership, MOE and GES leveraged its existing structures to implement the project in selected schools. GES, as the implementing organization, led STARS implementation of the project by setting up structures and systems for its successful implementation. UNICEF provided technical and financial support, whereas IPA provided technical support in intervention design and supported the principal investigators in conducting an evaluation for the project. I will now pass it on to my colleague, Atimone, who will take us through the research question, evaluation design, interventions, and results of STARS.
Thank you very much, Kanan. Can you hear me? just to confirm.
Yes, we can hear you, Henry.
Thank you. So, as mentioned by Kanan, STARS is a catch-up program that primarily focuses on P4 to P6 learning. It's adapted the teacher-led model tested by TKI, the TKI project between 2010 and 2013. On the STARS project, a randomized evaluation research was conducted by IPA in the 2018-2019 school year. The research had the following questions. It had the following research questions. One, does targeted instruction improve student test scores in upper primary grades? Two, can monitoring, managing, and coaching performed by existing circuit supervisors, now being referred to as CISOs, or school improvement support officers, and head teachers increase the likelihood that teachers implement targeted instruction? Does enhanced monitoring, managing, and coaching in supporting teachers to implement TI lead to significantly higher learning gains? Then again, what is the cost effectiveness of targeted instruction, or DL, alone as compared to targeted instruction with enhanced management? By this, the projects had an overarching aim to improve student achievements by enhancing head teachers and CISO's role in monitoring and mentoring and providing coaching support to teachers. Next slide, please. Next slide. All right, thank you. So here is the evaluation design. To evaluate the STARS program, we used a circuit and school randomized control trial with some 20 UNICEF supported districts across Ghana. We first randomized 140 circuits within the 20 UNICEF supported districts to either receive a management training or receive no management training. Then within each non-management circuit, we randomly selected 2 schools, one for targeted instruction and the other for a control school. Then thereafter, within each management circuit, we randomly selected 1 school to receive targeted instruction, or DL in this case, and enhanced management training. Next slide. Thank you. So the interventions that we tested were 2. One, we tested targeted instruction only. And then 2, we tested targeted instruction plus enhanced management. Now, on the targeted instruction only the targeted instruction for this particular intervention, at the start of each academic year, pupils were assessed using a basic ASA-like test to group them by their learning levels. So essentially, they were grouped into level 1, level 2, and then level 3. During school hours, 1 hour per day, 4 days a week, for 8 weeks every term, pupils were taught English and then mathematics in level-wise groups. Pupils were retested every term, and those who performed beyond their current levels were reassigned a higher level subsequently after their test result. Next slide. So the second component of the STARS program was the enhanced management intervention delivered to head teachers and CISOs. Now, aside that, it also came with all the components of intervention 1, which was shown in a previous slide. In this intervention, CISOs and head teachers received additional training on the best practices to mentor and support teachers as they implement the program. CISOs and head teachers received resource manuals on how to perform specific coaching and mentoring support activities with teachers. And in addition to that, they also received positive reinforcement text messages that included tips on how to be a better mentor coach, how to perform effective mentoring and classroom observations. The CISOs and head teachers also had access to a GES run help desk where they could call or text to receive prompt feedback on any issues that they were facing. The last thing also was that they during refresher training, they underwent peer learning activities, and they were able to share best practices that they've learned across their various schools. Now, at this stage, it's important to again acknowledge that UNICEF provided the funding for the implementation activities, whilst the Ministry of Education agencies such as GES, NACA, NTC, NASIA, as mentioned by Kanan, were the main facilitators during the implementation process. Next slide. So we conducted different data collection activities throughout the implementation period. We had a baseline study conducted during June 2018. Then the program was implemented. During the implementation phase, we conducted observational activities or observational surveys where we basically did spot checking. In this case, we wanted to be sure that the program was actually being implemented by the various schools. At the end of the academic year, we conducted a follow-up survey. Now, for the baseline and follow-up surveys, we collected data on learning outcomes of the children. We also conducted teacher interviews, head teacher interviews, and then CISO interviews across baseline and then follow-up. Next slide. So, again, there were four main research questions that we wanted to answer. The first, if you can remember, is does targeted instruction improve students' test scores in upper primary grades? So, from the table or from the graph that you see, each intervention increased combined maths and English score by about 0.11 standard deviation. When considering math score alone, the estimated test score increased is about 0.13 standard deviation. We estimate that the English test scores increased by 0.07 standard deviation across all the outcomes. And we fail to reject that the two interventions had the same test scores effects. On average, control schools' test scores increased by 0.33 standard deviation between the baseline and then the follow-up, approximately 1 year difference. Therefore, students learned an extra of about 33% over this same period. Students in the TI only intervention were 3 percentage points less likely to be present than those in the control group. Next slide. The next question, can monitoring, managing and coaching performed by existing CISOs and head teachers increase the likelihood that teachers implement targeted instruction? So for head teacher outcomes, we directly observed teachers and asked teachers to report, head teachers to report on their interaction with their teachers. Both intervention increase the likelihood that the head teacher would be present or was present when we arrived by 12. That is in the TI only. To 16, that is in the TI management, 16 percentage points. On average, in control school groups, head teachers were present only 42% of the time. Therefore, this represents an increase in 28 to 38%. When we asked teachers the number of times that head teacher observed their teaching at least 30 minutes, teachers in the TI only treatment reported 0.68 more observations than the control school. And those in the TI plus management treatments reported 0.86 more observations than the control group. So head teachers were more likely to improve. Head teachers were more likely to improve in their provision of feedback to teachers. So in terms of percentage points, we recorded that to be around 12% more in a TI only and 14% more in a TI plus management arm. And teachers were more likely to think that this feedback was useful. About 12% points in both arms. In all cases, we fail to reject that these effects are equal across the two treatment interventions. About 57% of head teachers were able to produce a TI handbook. So during the head teacher and CISO training, we provided them with handbooks. And then also in the TI only, teachers receive handbooks that they would use as part of their implementation processes. And in this case, there was 57% likelihood that head teachers sorry, my audio. All right. So about 57% of head teachers were able to produce the TI handbook to show enumerators with equivalent rate across two treatment terms. The final column. So in the control schools, CISOs did not conduct classroom observations of at least 30 minutes. In contrast, TI only interventions increased that number by 0.42% during visit. Next slide, please. So the next research question: does the enhanced monitoring, managing, and coaching supporting teachers to implement TI lead to significant higher learning days? Teachers were more likely to be present when the enumerator teams arrived. We observed this during the period that we were conducting the observational surveys. Teachers were more likely to be present in a classroom, 13% points in a TI only, and 11% points in a TI plus management, statistically indistinguishable from each other. Teachers in both treatments were also more likely to be using the STARS teaching and learning materials, 29% points in TI only and 25% points in the TI plus management. We test at the school level whether students were correctly divided by learning levels instead of grade levels. So about 58% of the time, students were divided by learning levels in the TI only intervention, and then 62% of the time in the TI plus management intervention. We found that across both treatments, about 90% of the schools reported that they had implemented a TI at least once in the past week and have conducted a leveling exam, either at the start or at the end of the term. So a leveling exam, as I said initially, is the test that the teachers provided to the students to be able to appropriately put them in the various levels or learning groups. The next slide, please. So what is the cost effectiveness of targeted instruction alone as compared to targeted instruction with enhancement? Comparison of the program cost estimates with the program estimated impact gives measures of the cost effectiveness of the STARS program to compare with alternative means by obtaining the same benefits. Notably, the STARS TI intervention improved student learning outcomes equivalent to spending an additional 1.1 years of learning for every $100 spent. Comparatively, STARS TI management improved student learning outcomes equivalent to the spending of 0.62 years of learning for every $100 spent. So to explain this, it means that at the end of the academic year, we can presumably say that students who went through the intervention were more or less catapulted a whole academic year, especially in the TI TI only intervention or the TI only group, whilst approximately half a year for the TI plus management intervention. Thank you. Kanan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Henry. So what is next for DL/TI in Ghana? As some of us might know, the Ministry of Education has now incorporated the results of STARS into the Gallup program, which is Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcome Project. The project is aimed at implementing DL in over 10,000 primary schools and will impact over 2 million learners across the country over the period of the project, which is about 5 years. Ghana Education Service will be leading the program. It is also important to note that DL is currently being implemented in 230 primary schools, which are in the UNICEF-supported districts. These are not Gallup schools. These are other set of schools which are spread across 47 districts, which is where DL is being implemented with technical and financial support from UNICEF. We thank IEPA once again for inviting IPA to this webinar, and thank you once again for everyone who joined the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kanan and Henry, for sharing that experience with us on differentiated learning, the outcomes and the way forward. I have learned something, and I know that participants have also at least been enlightened to the successes and how this program is going to change and shape learning going forward. The floor is now open for questions, comments, and to do that, kindly raise your hand and I'll call you to ask your question or your comment, or you can send that through this platform. While the participants are getting ready, I think that Henry, when you were, you have a hand raised, so.
Yeah, good afternoon. I am I'm a MSS personnel guest teachers team of science.
Kindly position yourself well so we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Is it quite better?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So with the differentiated learning or the targeted instruction, I was trying to understand how you can be able to manage that in achieving the collective goal of your learning. So for example, before the term begins, you are supposed to prepare your scheme of work or your scheme of learning, where you are supposed to reach or the goal for the term. And I don't know if my understanding is right for the whole webinar, where the targeted instructions or the differentiated learning is you look at the level of the student or the learning level of the student. That is where you attack from without focusing mainly on the grade. So my question really is, how do you manage that with the term's goal, or what you are supposed to achieve by the end of the term? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for that question. And I don't know who will take that. Henry?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter, for that question. So if I understand your question correctly, you want to understand how are the learners placed at this level, or how do we assess how is it going forward for the students? So based on this assumption, I'm going to answer the question. So at the beginning of each term, the learners are tested and they are grouped accordingly. During the term, or more often the next term, etc., when the teachers feel like the learners might have progressed, they do take another test and see if they need regrouping. So that is how the learners are sort of placed at the level of their learning and not based on their age or grade. Henry, if there's something you want to add.
Yes, Kanan. So just to add a bit of perspective, I think again, I understood this question relating to how do teachers or schools balance the normal academic work with the DL work. So this particular DL intervention was planned such that teacher work stress or the burden that teachers normally go through in terms of their normal daily delivery would be reduced to the barest minimum or as much as possible during implementation. So as part of this deal, teachers were provided with teaching and learning materials ready made. There were very few ones that they had to do or create by themselves. Then again, one thing that teachers usually have problems or complain about mostly has to do with lesson plan writing. Now, on the DL program, this didn't happen, or this was not the work of the teachers. So basically, the entire lesson for the academic year was already written on it. That is a lesson, the various lessons for each day, for each subject, in this case, English or maths, were already written down. So there were more groups. So the teachers only took at the start of the day, kind of just takes the already printed lesson plans and then consult what materials he or she needs, and then eventually just goes and teaches whatever is expected to be taught. So as much as possible, the burden was reduced. And again, it's lasted for 1 hour, just the first period of the day. And it was for 4 days, in this case, Monday to Thursday, not including Friday. So 2 days for math, 2 days for English. So with this, the teachers at least were able to maintain their normal academic lesson notes that they use to cover the GES curriculum, and then also work on the DL lessons as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry, for that addition. Thank you, Kanan. And I hope that your question has been answered.
Oh,
I saw a hand up, and it said techno. So I don't know, techno count 16, and I don't know who that is. Can you introduce yourself and ask your question? Okay. Gladys, your hand is up. Please go ahead with your question.
thank you. Please, my question is for the assessment of the children. Are we to assess them based on the topics to be taught, that the strand and the substrand to be taught, or the previous lessons taught? That is what I'm confused about. Can you help me, please?
Thank you. So, when we talked about assessments of the children with the implementation itself, it has to do with a simple ASA-like test that was pre-designed for the teachers. So the teachers had kind of like a pool of questions, basically testing in English, like basic reading, letter identification, and all those things. So it was more generalized, but if a student is taken through the assessment, it could be a student could be placed into either a group where he or she could read sentences and paragraphs, or a group where he or she is a beginner in terms of just letter identification. Now, based on the test scores, they are then placed into the various learning groups. So the assessment that the teachers give, it's not necessarily linked to a particular topic, but then it's just a generalized answer to that is to help the teacher place or successfully place his or her students within appropriate learning levels or learning groups where they will then be targeted and taught appropriately. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Sorry, I think Kanan has added a comment.
Hello?
DL is targeted.
Hello?
Please hold on. You'll be called.
Okay.
Targeted towards improving foundational literacy and numeracy skills. It's more efficient. So there's an additional comment on that. Okay, next, Isaac, can you go ahead with your question? Isaac AJ. Isaac. Okay, I can see Isaac's hands up. I can see him, but I don't know if he can hear me. There's someone using a Techno Spark 5 Pro.
Yeah, please, it's me. Can you hear me?
Your name and your
Yeah.
organization. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm called Joyce Cote. I'm from Bubonku Basic School in Cape Coast here. I want to find out if the DL can be implemented at the senior high level. Please, you get my question?
Differentiated learning can be implemented at the senior high school level.
I want to find out, yeah.
Okay, thank you. It will be answered. Then I think Joshua also asked the same question. Can DL be implemented at a senior high school level? So over to you, Kanan and Henry. Is this something that can be done?
I will attempt to answer this and Kanan will come in if I leave anything else. So if you observe the stars slides, you would notice that we implemented the stars in P4 to P6. As a matter of fact, the TKI program that was implemented was actually implemented in lower primary, that is P1 to P3. One of the results that came out from that particular pilot study was the fact that the impact of the program, it increases positively as the grades increase. So that informed the decision to settle stars within the P4 to P6 domain. Because then we wanted to see if then it's true that if we place it within those particular higher grades, it will yield higher impact as compared to the TKI program. And of course, yes, it did. Implementing the targeted instruction in the senior high school would be a very interesting research or project to do to see whether as we go towards the higher ladder, we could get higher impact. But at least on the STARS project, we've been able to establish that we've been able to confirm the initial results of TKI, that moving to higher grades, the impact of learning with this particular teaching pedagogy, it actually increases the outcomes or learning outcomes in students.
Thank you, Henry. Kanan, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to say that the targeted instruction or differentiated learning is for impacting foundational literacy and numeracy skills. So here the hope is that our students in primary will sort of have the skills that is required to go up to the secondary schools. So the intent, that's why it's focused on the primary school, because it's foundational literacy and numeracy skills. Thank you.
Okay, so the emphasis here is foundational literacy and numeracy skills. But with this whole dialogue going on about standards of education, which is actually catapulting into the senior high school, maybe IPA should look at doing an assessment at the senior high level, foundational level, which is the first year, to kind of gauge if there'll be some change or insights that we can gain from that. I think it's something that can be looked at later on. Thank you. Cynthia, Sam, your hand is up. Please unmute and ask your question.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you to Kanan and Henry. I'm Cynthia I'm from IP, formerly of GS. Yeah, very interesting discussions. I think that since the targeted instruction or differentiated learning is to address foundational skills, since we have challenges with some junior high school, senior high school students who do not have foundational literacy and numeracy skills, it would be an interesting research to find out how using the DL or targeted instruction methodology, it works out in these higher levels of education. So I agree with you that it's something that should be taken up for further research. Also, the other bit I want to add is the fact that I think one participant asked, how does a teacher juggle between the targeted instruction classes and his or her normal work? And the targeted instruction can be regarded as a remedial lesson. So you are providing remediation in literacy and numeracy. You are providing, helping the children to pick reading and basic math skills, so they will be better able to work at the grade level. So you do the classes for the English and the math, and then they go back to their own grade level literacy and numeracy and the other subjects. So it doesn't disturb the timetable for the school. You just locate one period for maths, one period for English, 2 times a week, and you carry on with the other classes. Yeah, so I just wanted to make a contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia, for that insightful contribution. And lower your hand now. I have Ben, whose hand is raised. Kindly unmute and ask your question, please.
Thank you. Great time with you. I just want to find out whether the targeted instruction, as it has wind up, what is next? Because when I was a circuit supervisor, CISO now, I took part in supervising some schools. And in my district currently, a program has wind up, and I want to know the way forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. And it's great to know that we have a CISO here who has worked on this program, in helping with this program before. So what is next is that DL is looking to be scaled up from GES's side to more than 10,000 primary basic schools, public basic schools in Ghana. So we're hoping to then eventually cover the whole country. But for now, the plan is to start with the Gallup schools, as they're being called popularly, and using some of the learnings from STARS and then using that to scale up. So that is the plan for STARS now.
Thank you, Kanan. So the plan is to scale up so that DL can reach a lot more learners at the foundational level. Isaac, your hand is up.
Good afternoon.
Question here. Good afternoon.
Thank you for the workshop online. My question is, your initial comment was about the certificate. I want to know whether it includes whether you give us points on the NTC portal, those who are participated in this workshop online. That's my question.
Okay, so regarding CPD and NTC points, I've been informed that that will be checked with NTC. We are currently registered with NTC, but as to whether this webinar counts for CPD points, I'm not pretty sure. So we are going to do a text and probably send an email and social media post so that we are aware of it. So as we speak now, I can confirm or deny that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I also have Ishmael. Your hand is up. That's your question. Ishmael.
You're on mute.
Hello. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good afternoon. I want to thank Kanan and Henry for the wonderful delivery. My first observation I want to know, or I want to ask, is about the earlier submission made by one of the participants. The junior high school has to be also considered regarding this DL or TI. Well, most of the students there have a very weak foundation, of which if IPA will extend its tentacles to the junior high school, it will go a long way to help most of the students over there. But most of them, they cannot read. Currently, as we are speaking, some of them are in JHS3. They can neither read nor even mention the 2 times table correctly. So going forward, I would like to urge them to also extend a helping hand to students at the junior high as well as the senior high level as earlier on submitted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mel, for that feedback and observation. So IPA, it's not only a call to look at the senior high level. Ishmael is also saying that we should look at the junior high level as well. I think that in considering the scale up, these are feedback from teachers and stakeholders within the education sector. And this feedback can probably guide our way forward in that regard. So thank you, Ishmael, for contribution. I have Robert. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Thank you so much. Yes.
Please ask your question. Robert, you have to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, please. I think I've unmuted.
Okay.
Can I go ahead?
So please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. The targeted instruction at the foundational level is also characterized with this mass promotion issue. And my concern is on the side where we have to get our goals achieved. What exactly can we do vis-a-vis the mass promotion in order to realize what objective this targeted learning or instruction is being implemented? Thank you so much.
Robert, can you repeat what you
Hello?
said?
Yes.
Wasn't quite
My
clear
question,
about your, okay, yeah,
yes, I'm coming again.
okay.
The targeted instruction is at the foundational level, which is the primary level. And this is the level that is characterized with mass promotion in Ghana. My concern is about how we in the fold, the teaching fraternity at that level, can achieve results vis-a-vis the mass promotion that we have been asked to do.
Okay, thank you. I think it's
Thank you so much.
clear. Kanan, Henry, do you have any comments on this?
So I think that the audio was breaking for me. So I will attempt to re-echo the question to see if we align. Right? Is it the case that he's saying that because of mass promotion, education standards or learning standards are low, and what is the program addressing in this regard? Is that the question?
Yeah, and in some way, it says that the foundational level is characterized by mass promotion. So using this differentiated learning, how do they achieve the target of, I'll say, quality vis-a-vis the mass promotion? Because as to whether the foundation in numeracy and literacy is good or bad, the students are promoted in math.
Mhm. So to respond to that, I would first want to refer to the earlier comments made by Madam Cynthia regarding the STARS program. Again, the STARS program is more of a remediation program or a remedial program, kind of to supplement the deficiency that is already existing. So it's more or less like a succinct solution to the fallout or the low learning outcomes that we have in children. And so basically, the STARS project kind of presents the solution or the arena where we could explore increasing learning outcomes in children if it is implemented properly. And overall, this tends to address the learning gaps, regardless of the various promotions or mass promotions that are done. At least we could make up for the gap between learning that we have as a big issue in Ghana.
Thank you, Henry. And let me just add, little in terms of whether mass promotion or not. I think that it's very important that we help our learners at the foundation level to improve upon their literacy and numeracy. And that's what the differentiated learning approach is to achieve. We've seen from the statistics that was shared that there's been improvement in this at the foundational level. And as Kanan said, that it's going to be filled up. So we believe that irrespective of whatever policies that has been implemented by the government, this will still go a long way to improve the numeracy at the foundational level. Thank you. So I have TechnoSpark 5 Pro.
Yeah, please. I'm back again. Somebody asked a question about the CPD points for this webinar that we are having now. But I couldn't get the answer that was given because my network was not good. So can you please repeat the answer that was given for me? Thank you very much.
Okay, so I indicated that IEPA is registered on the National Teaching Council portal. But as we speak, I cannot confirm that this webinar allocates CPD points. So we are going to have a discussion with the National Teaching Council. Then we can appropriately get back to you on that. So as we speak now, I don't know if you can get CPD points or not, but we are registered with the National Teaching Council.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So we have Ibia Mankwa. Kindly unmute and ask your question. Okay, so Peter?
Yes, I would want to find out as Cynthia Sam making a submission that this TI is supposed to be a remedy or remedial something to help our learners, and also as re-echoed by our male resource person. So the question really for me, even though this whole program was implemented at the basic level, mainly the primary, how does someone who attends this webinar leave this webinar resourced and equipped enough? Maybe the person might not be teaching at the primary level, the person is teaching at the GHS and senior high, but finds out that his or her students have, as far as the foundations of learning are concerned, when you want to take mathematics and maybe literacy, how does this webinar empowers the person to be able to meet the needs of his or her student, which does not fall between which does not fall in the primary category.
Okay, I think Peter's network is quite unstable, but if I get
there any form of a website, they used to have lesson notes and lesson plan prepared for the teachers, so they just have to go there and start work with it. We have any resource, anything. So the question really for me is that how does this webinar empower someone who does not fall in the category where this program was carried out to be able to meet the learning needs of his or her students? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So let me try and rephrase your question because you were breaking up. So Peter's question is that for teachers in the junior and senior high school who fall under the outside the scope of DL, which was implemented in the foundations and primary schools, if they find out that their students also have literacy and numeracy challenges, how can they apply some of the learning from this research and from this test to help their students at the junior level and senior level? Is there any website? Is there any material that they can access and probably learn in that regard? Henry or Kanan?
So I'll try to attempt this very interesting question. Thank you, Peter, for your question. Firstly, so this webinar was more about presenting the findings, talking about the research and how targeted instruction, differentiated learning is an effective pedagogy. However, it doesn't just contain TLMs or the learning sources around it, but it's a process of testing the learners, grouping them, making sure it's part of the school hours. And so it's a whole exercise and for which teachers undergo training. So it would be hard for us to have this webinar and present on resources. However, there are some resources where everyone can learn about what happens in DL classrooms or what are some of the tools or educational pedagogy that are used. And maybe the teachers can try to incorporate some of those to accentuate like critical thinking in students or have them go away from sort of rote memorization towards really understanding what they're doing. But it would be very hard for us to give resource pack or something to help the teachers who are not trained for implementing DL. That would be my submission.
Thank you, Kanan. I think that you've answered the question. So, well, I think that this webinar gives us the opportunity to know what IPA is doing on differentiated learning. and to share the insights and results as to how this is impacting positively at the foundational level. I mean, listening to the presentation, at least we all get insight as to how we can apply some of these things. Aside this webinar, I'm sure that we can get some information on IPA's website, and also that would tell us how schools implementing this differentiated learning, and we can probably observe and ask questions and learn from that. I hope that helps in that regard.
It sure that helps in a way.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So I have Raphael. Raphael, your hand is up. Can you unmute and ask your question if you have a question?
Yeah, my network went off. So I don't know whether
Okay.
you talk about the certificate, whether it will go with a cost.
Okay, so Raphael, I think at the beginning of the webinar, I did indicate that the certificate is an electronic one and it's 100 Ghana cedis. So if you're interested, yeah, you can send us an email.
Okay.
And we would get that for you. And if I believe that each one of us registered for this webinar, so the email that you receive, send an email back to us and we'll get you a certificate.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Cynthia, your hand is up. You have the
Thank
floor
you
now
very
to ask your question. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam. This program is really great and it's helping a lot. I've observed some in a particular school. And I want to say that since it's a collaboration, can we please collaborate with GES so constantly train teachers, because at least they need refresher courses for it to go through. I don't know whether there will be any collaboration. It's very good. It's a good program. Thank you very much.
Cynthia, if I get you correctly, you're talking about the differentiated learning.
Yes, please.
And you want GES to organize refresher courses.
Yeah, if there can be a collaboration at least, because it's a great methodology.
Okay, thank you. I think that during the presentation was clear that some of the partners for this project is GES, NACA, NASIA, UNICEF, and others. I think Henry and Kanan can speak very clearly. So maybe with this feedback, they can go back to their partners and see how retraining can be done.
Okay, very grateful. Thank you.
So I hope I answered the question for you, Henry and Kanan.
Yes, thank you so much.
You have absolutely answered.
Okay. Thank you. So, well, we have Amankwa, Ibi Amankwa. Are you ready with your question? Amankwa, are you ready with your question? If not, I'm going to move to Stefan.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Stefan.
Thank you to our resource persons. I don't teach at the primary level. I teach at the senior high level. And I noticed we had questions coming through from participants asking how this can be implemented at the senior level. We can all acknowledge the fact that it's a presentation of a research work that was undertaken at the primary level, and they are sharing the results with us and the advances or the progress we have made. So if what the research is on is about foundational skills, that is reading and arithmetics, mathematics, then if you need to assist our senior high students who are struggling within these foundationals, because if you can't read and you can't do simple mathematics, it is difficult for you to understand the other subjects or the other courses that you need to teach. So as a senior high teacher, how best do we help these senior high students who are already lacking these foundational skills? So you double up as an English teacher, you double up as a maths teacher or something, or you can even refer that student to a maths, or the school can come up with an intermediate program for these students. But then let's acknowledge the fact that what they are sharing with us is the research they have done at the primary level in terms of differentiated learning skills. This thing is already existing. We do it in some way, somehow in our various schools. Madam Moderator, pardon me. I did something at an international school, and what they did was they had 3 different age groups within the same classroom. So if it's algebra they are teaching, they are able to teach these 3 different grade schools within the same class, this algebra topic, scaffolding, building upon it. So by the time the one at the junior level get to understand whatever he or she needs to understand at their level, they get to get the understanding at the top level as well. So if you are able to understand the techniques or the act and art of teaching children, that is the pedagogy, then we can infuse these things in our everyday activities as teachers. So not to do a remedial or a top-up course, but we can also cultivate the habit of going online, watching short videos on differentiated learning. How can I implement it within my own space? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for that insightful comment. And I think that she has shared experiences from the senior level as she teaches. So we can all start implementing some of this. Okay, so I have 4 hands up. I'm going to take those questions. Then we're going to, because our time is fast spent. So Edna Joa, you have the floor. Please unmute and ask your question. Edna. Okay, if Edna is not ready, Ben, are you ready with your question?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay.
It's a clarification. When you were responding to how one can get the certificate from this webinar, my network was not clear. So I just want to ask for clarification on that. Thank you.
Okay, so Ben, if you send me your number or email in the chat box, I'll actually note it down and we can talk after. But what I said was that if you registered for this webinar, you definitely received an email from IEPA. So you can send us an email using the same address to say that you need a certificate, and we will communicate with that because we have to take certain information from you to develop the certificate. But while you're online, if you give me your number or email through the chat box, I'll note it down when you contact. Thank you. So I have Lakshmi, I hope I get your name correct. Lakshmi Tegu. Do you have a question?
Hello. Hello.
Please ask your question.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks so much to the resource person for such a great discussion. But I would like to know whether there is a special curriculum for this differentiated learning, or they follow the normal GES curriculum. Thank you.
Okay. So over to you.
Yes, thank you very much for this question. So again, the DL lessons were pre-designed. So basically, they were addressing very foundational issues or foundational aspects of these children. So not necessarily GES curriculum related, but then more or less on if we are talking about addition, what are the skills that are required for children to perform addition in upper primary, or let's say a P4 class. Those were the issues that the content sought to address. So if you have access to some of these materials, you would see that most often, if teachers are supposed to teach additions, I'm only using addition as an example, in number addition, right? They would have a different approach on how to address lower levels, because it's stipulated in the handbook that is given to the teachers. And then there's a different approach for level 2, and then a different approach as well for level 3. Maybe in level 1, it becomes more activity oriented. So students are able to relate more to whatever context within their environments, and be able to perform very, very simple operations. So that is how the content was developed, to build up their literacy and numeracy skills, so that eventually, as I don't know, is it Senam said, it could then translate onto, yes, it could translate onto the other subjects as well, because we all understand that numeracy and literacy are very foundational when it comes to all the other subjects. So that was the main approach, and the content in terms of the drive of the content for the DL. Edna, is this sufficient for you? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Henry. So I'll take the last few questions, and I have Lami Tego. Can you hear me? Okay, so well, there's an interesting comment that someone made. So let me see if we can look at it. And this is from Faustina Saki, and she says that the fact on Gallup schools haven't already prepared lessons may not be true, because there's nothing like that for us to use, which makes the work very difficult. Maybe it is being used at some places. Again, resources for the program are not available as promised. Also, teachers who were trained in the program and were promised not to be transferred from their school have been reposted, and their replacements are not well vested in that. If the resources for the program were to be available, they can be taken through, but no. Kindly get us the needed resources in terms of what to teach in a particular day. Thank you. So, Kanan and Henry and IPA, I think this is a feedback for us. Let's good faith.
Yes, thank you. I believe this is feedback that we could carry across to, especially the partners who did the implementation, and that could actually be looked at. So this is very helpful feedback to share. Thank you for that.
Thank you. So finally, question, Ibia Mankwa, do you still have a question?
Yeah, good afternoon, madam.
So this will be your last question.
Okay, okay, madam. Yeah, I think I'm highly impressed with the presentation and the discussion so far. My issue has to do with the fact that this intervention program, talking about the DL or the tier, won't it be a bit much expensive enterprise to undertake? Because one CISO even was saying that after the program in their area, I think he didn't hear anything about it, and was even asking about the way forward. And I was having the feeling that probably because of maybe the expensive nature of the intervention, that is why it couldn't continue. continue. And so I'm trying to ask the feasibility in relation to our Ghanaian context with regards to its finances. That's the first one. And then the second issue has to do with like my village school, like Nankese Presby Primary School. This small classroom with about 50 pupils in the classroom. I'm just trying to picture or figure out how a teacher will manage the classroom with this intervention, even without learning materials and yes. And so how will you, I'm just trying to look at that picture, how a teacher can manage a classroom of that nature with this program. So this is my issue.
Okay, thank you, Amankwa. So Henry and
all right, I'll
Kanan.
first attempt to answer. If I leave anything out, Kanan could come in. So the first question has to do with feasibility in terms of cost, if I got that right. So I showed in one of the slides that we, as part of the research questions, we were also trying to explore the cost effectiveness of the STARS program in general. And when I say cost effective, comparing the targeted instruction alone being implemented and then the targeted instruction being implemented alongside the management components. And so in that slide, we were able to know that at least for a child, it costs $29.22 to be able to implement this particular program per child within a school. Then for the targeted instruction plus management, it's about $52.62 to be able to implement. Now, this is information that is usually very relevant for implementing organizations like the Ministry of Education or the Ghana Education Service. So they are able to review, make a trade-off, make a decision, make a choice on which one they would want to approach or they would want to proceed with. Now, if they are proceeding with the targeted instruction, what is the benefit? We again said that for a year that a child is exposed to this particular intervention, it's basically catapults the child 1 full academic year approximately ahead of that particular child. Then for the management, about half a year. So if a child goes through the program for 1 year, the child is further catapulted half a year ahead of himself or herself. That is the cost effectiveness that we were able to conduct on the program. This is basically information that is made available to the implementers or the policy makers for them to be able to make decisions moving forward. And I think it has gone a long way to feed into how Gallup is looking at the DL in terms of implementing itself on the whole. Now, to address the issue of large student population within the class. The program is designed such that in schools that are having very, very large enrollment, the teachers do what we call divide and conquer. So at the start of the term, when they are doing the leveling of the children, when I say leveling, grouping of the children into the various learning abilities, that is where they apply the various tests or the ASA test to be able to separate or align the children. The teachers basically help each other. And then also during the training, we added on as part of a layer the curriculum leaders. So head teachers are available to assist. And then we also have curriculum leaders who may not necessarily be the primary school teacher, also being trained. So essentially, these people give helping hands when it comes to the grouping of the children, because that is where they need to, they have very limited time, that is about 1 week, to be able to really position the children and then start implementing. Now, when it comes to the implementation itself, because they separate, they teach the children in groups, it is more or less like teaching the normal population when it comes to the normal academic work. So it doesn't really go beyond a teacher's expectation. It is only when they are doing leveling that other teachers are called in, or the teachers group and then divide and conquer in terms of administering the tools or the ASA tool to the children. So this is what I have to react to. I don't know if my colleague has additions to this, but otherwise, if this answers your question.
Okay, so before Kanan comes in, I think there was a question on the chat. We say that could a grouping somehow influence learners' grade since a successful learner is upgraded to another group? Is this something which is feasible?
Anna, please, could you come again with your question?
Okay, so let me go back and read the question. It says that could the grouping somehow influence learners' grade since a successful learner is upgraded to another group?
Yes, this is a very, very great question. As part of the intervention, you would get from our explanation that the children are grouped in learning abilities. This means that there is a possibility that within level 1 of English, we are having low learners from P4, P5, and P6 coming together. So this means that within a level, we would be having, there is the likelihood that different grades are put together. Basically, that is how the groupings are done. All the level 1s in P4, P5, and P6 are grouped together. The level 1s in P5, P6, and P4, P5, and P6. The level 2s, they are also grouped together and taught or targeted and then taught. Now, the question of if we are being placed within a group, let's say the level 1s, the issue of discrimination. For example, we being called level 1 kind of like may put the child to think that they are not good, or level 3 may think that they are good. Now, one thing that we did on the project was that we actually, the teachers were trained not to let the children know that they are being placed in performance levels, but then they are being good so that they learn from their peers or whatever. And then also the levels were not necessarily called levels. The teachers gave the students the opportunities to name the levels or to give their own names to those levels. So in this case, you would go into a school where you find the apple group, the banana group, and then the oranges group. Now, at least the teachers themselves do know that these are level 1, level 2, and then level 3 for maths. But then the children are not made to know that those are performance levels. Of course, the children do know themselves, and sometimes they are able to detect that, okay, so I am the best student in my class. This person is also another brilliant student. So it looks like we are being put together. The students are able to sense that. From the research that we conducted and then the qualitative survey that we conducted, we found out that the children weren't really feeling slighted, or they weren't having issues of being discriminated against, as in grouping all students who were not performing, or they weren't having issue at all. As a matter of fact, it's somehow was more interesting for them in the lower levels. So they were very much entertained because the activities or the lessons were activity-based. So they were very, very much entertained. We got as part of the results that because of the targeted instruction lessons, children were more likely to show up in school, which meant that the children were engaged or they were also interested in the program moving forward. So that's the comments that I do have for that.
Thank you very much, Henry. And at this point, that's all time will allow us. We are way above our allocated time for this webinar. So I want to say thank you to our resource persons, Kanan and Henry, for that insightful presentation, for your comments and your answers to the questions. And I'll say thank you to all the participants who joined and for those insightful comments and questions. I know that, and I must apologize. This is apology on behalf of IEPA, because the technical team apparently set this webinar to 100 participants instead of the large 500. So a lot of people could not join this webinar, and we are so sorry for that. It was a technical, and we apologize for that. But that notwithstanding, all our webinars are on our YouTube channel. So IEPA-UCC YouTube, you can look for us. We're going to put this webinar recording on the YouTube. So please tell your colleagues and friends who were not able to join to go and watch the videos, and they'll also be enlightened in that regard. And we promise that the next one we will make sure that we can take in more people for that. For all of those who have sent their contact emails and numbers requesting for certificates, we have taken note of it. We're going to get in touch with you and do the needful as we go along. So a member of the communication team will get in touch with you and work with you towards your certificate. But if for any reason you still need a certificate, you can send us an email. We will do that. So on that note, I want to say thank you to all of you for your time, for your attendance, for your participation, for your questions, for your comments. And I think that to our resource persons, fantastic presentation. Thank you. The slides will be made available to all registered participants. So if you didn't register, please go back and register so that when we share the slides, so if we have the database of all registered participants, so we're going to send that slides to them, or you can visit our YouTube channel and watch as we go along. So thank you all. And until we come to your rooms and announce our next webinar, which will be in April, let's continue the good work we are doing in the education sector. Let's make sure that we are improving on teaching and learning, applying differentiated learning, applying innovative pedagogy, so that at the end of the day, our learners will be the better off. Thank you and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, grateful.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, please, I wanted to know when the PhD forms will be coming out.
PhD forms.
Yes, please.
Okay, we just started this academic year in January, so it will be later in the year. So be on the lookout. We definitely publish it on our website and also on our social media. So it's not out yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And I'm ending this.
Bye.